Shell. I'm in the Clover shop right now. I just want to give you a little breakdown on, you know, how we do things, how we buy things, all that kind of stuff. The other day, we got in a huge lot of Blu-ray discs that were pretty significantly scratched. Usually Blu-rays are unrecoverable just because if there's top damage on them, they are, you know, beyond repair. There's data on this top layer of the Blu-ray. If the bottom half is pretty scratched, then that's also really hard to recover. We got one of these Spider-Man games in. It was pretty significantly scratched when it came in. What we did was we were able to put it on our resurfacer, which I'll walk you back to in a second. We were able to throw it on a resurfacer, clean it up pretty significantly. It went from very scratched to not scratched. And then we fully tested it. We had one of my guys throw it into a PS3, fully tested. He played it for about, 20 minutes or so, make sure it was good. So now we're able to sell it. We also offer a 7-day warranty on all of our games as well, which is super cool. So if you do have issues with it, you can bring it back and we'll, figure something out for you. We're not going to leave you hanging with something busted. Let's walk back to our resurfacer really fast and I can walk you through how we do that really quick. So, this is our lovely resurfacer. We just got it back. We're super excited. We have our huge stack of games that we're still working through right now. There's a lot of them. But anyway, our resurfacer, pretty much what happens is we throw it in there. We wet the pads a bit. It runs compounded water through it. Put the disc right there. As you can see, this one is pretty significantly scratched. We throw it on here. We wet the pads. We run it through. The water and compound feeds through it. It takes essentially a layer off of the disc and then feeds the compound into the scratches and buffs it out. And then we'll run it into, because this is a PS2 game, we'll run it onto a PS2, we'll test it, and it'll be good to go. And then, of course, we're going to offer a 7-day warranty on it as well. We also do offer resurfacing for customers as well. It's going to be $5 a disc. You can bring them in. We'll resurface them for you. And, then you'll have some lovely clean discs as well.
And then you're able to save things that are very important to you.
Exactly. Add them back into your collection after, they've been little coasters for a long time. So, there you go.
The worst fate any disc game can have.
Exactly. So, there you go. I hope you enjoyed this little, intro into our lives over here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey guys, Kevin here, and we just got a cool trade in, and I wanted to kind of show you a little bit about the trade and about the condition of the games and what we do to fix games that aren't ready to sell, because this guy definitely isn't ready to sell. I wouldn't put this in my console, and I wouldn't recommend that you do it as well. Guy brought these games in, really good games. I love a good Donkey Kong 64. Don't forget, if you want to play Donkey Kong 64, you have to have the expansion pack. If you don't have the expansion pack in your 64, Donkey Kong no likey. So, this is a good one. It's in great condition. It's ready to go. Any game you buy, though, 91% isopropyl alcohol and a nice little rub with a Q-tip. Just get any residue or anything like that. A little quick flip, and this guy's ready to go. This one, unfortunately, on the other hand, has a nice bit of rust along the outside and the inside of the pin connector, which tells me this guy was dunked in some water. So, we need to take it apart and we need to take a little closer look. Cleaning the pins isn't going to be good enough. You put this in your N64 and you are guaranteed to have some rust behind. So, game bit. This is my professional handle for my game bit, because we do things professionally around here at Blueshellgaming. And then of course I'm not prepared. Can somebody get me a Phillips head screwdriver? But we can see the rust has penetrated and is deep and prevalent in this guy here. This is going to be fun. I'm not sure if that's big enough or it is. But I'm worried about that other screw, because that other screw is going to be a problem. Hey! We got it.
Kevin 1, rusted screw 0.
Yeah. So this is really easy to fix. Throw it in some vinegar, and we'll do that actually here in a second. to preserve this. That's fun. Now that's where we run into problems, because that rust and that corrosion that build up on there can start to damage the components. And if it's penetrated and broken any of the traces in here, this game won't load or won't play correctly. But before we get to that, let's pull and look at the source. So that's our cover, and that's also, so we can't drop this into, but we can just put a little rubbing alcohol in there, and let's see. This might be permanently stained. But the big key, the big question mark is going to definitely be this board. So the board matters more than the case. Case can be replaced if we can find another one, but if this guy doesn't work, then there's really no point.
Do you know if it's possible to 3D print new shells?
It is possible. The problem with 3D printed shells are they're not going to have the original artwork on them.
Oh, yeah.
I don't like non-original art. I don't like using reproductions. I don't like using reprints because it just feels like a fake. Even if it's got a real board inside, it doesn't feel real. If it doesn't feel real, if it isn't real, then you might as well be selling somebody a fake. So I avoid reproductions and reprints, especially when it comes to game cartridges, unless it's like a custom case or a custom mod and it's meant to be or sold as custom. But that looks better.
I would agree.
So you can see like the rust has started to eat away at some of the board, and the area where the traces are is a little off. But as long as those traces are still good, what you can also do is, we'll leave that too. We need all of it.
All of it.
All the stuff.
Yep.
All right. All the tools.
Oh boy.
Vinegar. This is all to save a $10 game, guys. This is what it takes. So someone comes in with a game and they're like, this game's worth $10. I want $10 for it. And it's covered in rust. I'm sorry. We're doing it for the sake of prosperity and saving a game cartridge from death, from certain death. I dropped both of the screws. There they are.
It's all about
All right.
preserving gaming history.
Yeah, so this screw, the one that was rusted, I'm going to throw it in also, the vinegar. The vinegar will break down and take off all that rust. We just can't put this in there, unfortunately, because it will ruin the label. So we'll see what we can do with that in a minute. Move all this off to the side. And 1000 grit sandpaper. Only use the 1000 grit. It's very, 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 very light. And then I just take off a little tiny chunk, put a little bit of rubbing alcohol in it, and then we can just, so we can kind of,
Oh wow.
get right along the edges and just make sure that none of those contacts and those traces are broken. We do expose a little bit of the metal underneath, which is actually okay, as long as, so there's different points down here where the trace has some rust. It's eating away at the edge of it. You just take a little bit of that rust off. If we leave the rust on, the potential for harm is greater because that rust can continue to eat away at the metal. But if we sand it off, then it goes away forever. And although we expose a little bit more of the trace, we've saved the life of another young cartridge. Clear! Because the rubbing alcohol will eat away at some of it, but it also doesn't get it all. So that's why you gotta sand a little bit of it off, and then you let the rubbing alcohol get in and do the rest of the work. I don't see any breaks in the trace, so there's a good sign. It's a good chance this guy will work again. When you cover the pins in rubbing alcohol over a significant amount of time, you do need to clean it off. And so we don't want to spray the window cleaner directly on the cartridge because it does have water in it, and that's what leads to rust. But if you just get a little bit on the edge and you just use it to polish the edge of the pins, because it will take all that residue from the rubbing alcohol off, and then with the dry section, just dry it off. All we're doing is polishing them. We're not wetting them. We just want to clean off residue and polish the edges to give it a nice shiny finish, make good contact, and hopefully all that. The main goal.
Because the important thing is the rust will cling to metal, but it doesn't cling to plastic quite so well.
Yeah, and it won't. Once it's been like wiped down and stuff, it's more of a stain at this point, as it's not actual rust that's still there, built up, or still there potentially damaging the cartridge or the metal. It's just more of a aesthetic thing at this point.
Yeah.
And we like them looking pretty.
Yeah.
So.
It's a little bit like hard water in that sense.
Yeah, it just leaves that after stain. What you see in the color of the rust is actually after it had eaten away at the metal, and then that's what it turns into. That the water turns to the color of rust because of what it's doing to the oxidizing the metal. So it's just an oxidation off of the metal, but it stains the plastic pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, that's probably as good as that's gonna get. Unfortunately, stains are permanent sometimes, or semi-permanent.
It looks like today we are not heroes of a half shell.
Not of that half, and probably not of this half, so we're not heroes of a whole shell.
But we tried, and that's what matters.
So yeah, it's really just if I can get the edge of ugliness, as we're going to call it, the edge of ugliness.
Just got to get it all.
The biggest thing is just making sure that we don't touch that label. N64 notoriously has the most fragile labels of all consoles.
I can attest to that.
They did not print them well. What's funny is, like, you take an NES label and you can wipe rubbing alcohol right across it, and it has such a fine shear to it that you can wipe it right off and not have taken off any of the color. If you leave it on there, that's bad. Don't do that. But if you just wipe it across it, it won't do anything. But if you wipe water across an N64 label, the water will take the color right off. So we're rubbing across the edge. We're trying to avoid touching the label at all. Alright, so we're back from the vinegar washing bath. We got all the vinegar off of our metal pieces. We got most of the rust off, which is really nice. There's just a few little light pieces of residue, and again, it's mostly staining. All the actual rust is going to be gone, so it's not going to continue to eat away at this. But we do want to make sure we dry them completely, because if we don't, we generate more rust. And that's not what we want. But two things happened in the process. One, as I was trying to clean the rust off of our black stopper here, it broke one of the pieces off of the side, and it's heavily stained and it wasn't coming off. If I leave this in the vinegar too long, because it's plastic, it will eat away at it. The metal, it won't. So this guy's kind of a complete loss. And then our one screw, we did get it cleaner, but I think it's kind of a loss. So here's what we're going to do. As opposed to reusing that and that and that, I keep N64 cartridges in my pocket. This is an old Madden that we had harvested a back from because we needed a back for a more expensive game that had been cracked and broken. So it's a $5 Madden game. We've already harvested half the shell, so why not harvest our metal plates, our black cover, and our screws from this guy. So then we can basically take all these pieces and just reuse them, since we're already
just Frankenstein
down apart
together.
Yeah. So we will save the cover and the board, because Those are still good. But if we can just take this, this, and this, we can reuse these parts in here to kind of put that back together. But we want to save the Bomberman, because the Bomberman is what we're here for. So, bottom plate first. Then we take our board, put our cover in. Oh wait, flip it the right way. There we go.
That would help.
I always have to test it both ways, and inevitably I do it wrong the first time.
It's like a USB plug.
Yeah, it always goes in wrong first, and then you get to figure it out.
When you flip it twice, and somehow you had it right the first time.
I do love USB-C for that reason, that it's always the right direction, and it's rounded, so it's a lot easier to fit in. For some reason, the square USB, the first time I always try a USB plug, I have it the right direction, but it doesn't fit in, so I think it's wrong, so I flip it just to find out that I was right the first time, and I just couldn't get it to go into the stupid hole.
USB-C is the future.
Always do it wrong first, so that you have to unscrew it and redo it, because if you don't put the top plate on, you've kind of wasted your time.
Yeah, no, it's very important.
Man,
Bless you indeed. Part of the creative process, you know. You can't do it right if you haven't done it wrong on purpose.
yeah.
Or something,
All right.
or something to that.
Something to that effect. Okay. Now that we have both of our pieces on, you know what I normally do is I normally put both the metal pieces on and screw it in, and then I wait until the cartridge is all the way closed, and then I realized that I forgot this part, and then I have to put that part back in. So I'm glad I remembered that part first.
So what you're telling me is that this is an improvement.
Yeah, it's an improvement on a fail. All right. So in case you guys did not know, what I'm doing is I'm reverse threading first before you thread in. Anytime you're plugging or you're screwing into plastic, you want to reverse thread backwards until you hear it click or feel it click. And once you feel the click, then you know that it's met the thread properly, and it's going to thread in. If not, you're forcing the threads in the wrong angle, and you're rethreading the plastic. And when you rethread plastic, you lower the life of how many times you're going to be able to open and close that item. So put it in, reverse thread. Oh, you feel the little pop, you see the little click. That means it dropped into the line, and it's going to be the correct thread. Do that every single time I unscrew anything and rescrew. Sometimes you have to do it a little bit more. Oh, there, I felt it that time.
Okay.
And now, our Bomberman is clean. Back together. He has a little stain. You can still see a little bit in that edge there, but it's a lot better. Let's plug her in, see if she works. So we got our N64 hooked up. We went with the jungle green, of course, because of the Dinky King. So we need the Dinky King to test first. It goes with the jungle. This is kind of fun. So as I said before, you have to have the expansion pack inside, but we don't have an OEM expansion pack. We have a really cool blue one, which is very different and odd, but it's still an expansion pack, so it's still going to give it the extra RAM. Let's flip her on, see what we got.
You had it for a long time.
Oh yeah, Donkey King. All
And
right,
now it's monkey time.
Donkey Kong is working. That's good.
Oh, no DK wrap today.
No DK wrap. All right, here's the ultimate test.
Wow.
Let's give her one more
Our very own
dry wipe.
Our very own Frankenstein.
Yeah. All right. Let's hope for the best. Cross our fingers.
We don't need any more games right now.
And lift off. Hey, no
Hey-o.
controller plug. That's good. Well, better if we had a controller plugged in. But even without a controller plugged in, we know
It's detecting, and that's what
it
matters.
works. It's all that counts.
Yep.
So, another one saved by Blueshellgaming.
Yeah, I guess.
Check us out.